Today, our source isn't some dusty document or a dense study. Nope, it's a song. Bob Dylan's 1962 folk ballad, The Death of Emmett Till. And we're going to break down how this piece of music works as, well, a raw piece of journalism, a witness statement, and a pretty searing indictment of a whole society's moral failure. So let's get into it.
So right from the jump, Dylan isn't trying to be poetic here. He's giving you the cold, hard facts, almost like a news report. Down in Mississippi, not so long ago, he's planting a flag, establishing the setting and the stakes immediately. He's telling us this isn't some timeless fable. No, this is a true story, and it happened right here in our time.
And that really gets to the heart of our first big idea here. Dylan isn't just singing a song, he's bearing witness. He's using this folk music format to basically act as a journalist, preserving a moral memory that he fears society is way too willing to forget. And you gotta remember, the mainstream media back then often just ignored or completely twisted these stories.
To really get what Dylan is doing, we have to understand the power of the protest song. It isn't just about telling a story. A protest song, it has a mission. It uses facts to build an argument, to point a finger, and to demand, literally demand, a response from you, the listener. It's a tool for social change.
So, in that very first verse, Dylan just lays it all out with this stark simplicity. He names the victim, Emmett Till, he names the crime, a dreadful tragedy, and he tells you why. The color of his skin was black. There's no ambiguity, no wiggle room. From the first few seconds, you know exactly what this is about and whose side Dylan is on.
Okay, so the song kind of shifts gears now. It moves from the what happened to the how it happened. Dylan doesn't just report on the tragedy. He forces us to actually witness the brutality of it. The power of these next verses comes from this unflinching, almost forensic description of the violence.
The language is just brutally simple. Some men, they drag them to a barn and there they beat them up. See, there's no poetry there, just a stark statement of fact. And with that one line, Dylan pulls us out of the audience and puts us right there, making us witnesses to the kidnapping.
Now this line, wow, this is just pure lyrical genius. When Dylan sings, I can't remember what, he's not being forgetful. He's making a devastating point. He's saying the killer's so-called reason is so meaningless, so morally bankrupt compared to their actions that it's beneath contempt. He just erases their justification completely, and all that's left is the horror of the act itself.
And this right here illustrates the song's first major accusation that goes beyond the killers themselves. Dylan creates this horrifying split screen in your mind. Inside there's torture and screaming. Outside there's laughter. This isn't just about a few violent men. This is an indictment of an entire community, a society that's indifferent, or maybe even worse, amused by the suffering happening right next to them.
And this is the really crucial part. After dismissing their stated reason, Dylan gives us his own. He strips away any pretense of Southern honor or social codes and just exposes the motive for what it is: pure, sadistic cruelty. He's accusing them of killing for sport. It is, without a doubt, the most direct, brutal, and damning line in the entire song.
So we leave the horror of the barn and walk right into the theater of the courtroom. But Dylan's point is that the violence hasn't actually stopped. It's just become institutionalized. The brutality of the men with their hands is replaced by the systemic brutality of a completely corrupt justice system.
This comparison just lays the whole farce bare, doesn't it? On one side of the scale, you've got a confession. On the other, an acquittal. Dylan puts these two completely irreconcilable facts side by side to expose the trial for what it was, a total sham. In that courtroom, the truth didn't matter. Facts didn't matter. Even a confession meant nothing. The system wasn't just failing to find the truth, it was actively shoving it away in broad daylight.
So then Dylan just keeps breaking down the failure of the system. He calls the trial a mockery, he points to this chilling public indifference nobody seemed to mind, and he even claims that men who helped commit the murder sat on the jury. The system wasn't just broken, it was an active participant in the crime. And that final image, it frames the murder not as some isolated event, but as the inevitable result of a society just steeped in Jim Crow.
And this is where the song takes a really powerful turn. Up to this point, Dylan has been a narrator, telling us a story that happened in the past. But now he turns his attention directly to the audience, to you, the listener. The story's over, and the judgment begins.
So he's asking a question, right? He's already accounted for the murderers. He's accounted for the corrupt legal system. But is that where the guilt ends? Well, Dylan's answer to that is a resounding no.
And here it is, the accusation aimed squarely at us. He is directly equating silence with moral decay. He's basically saying, if you see this injustice and you say nothing, you are not neutral. You're complicit. Your silence means your senses are deadened, your mind is clouded. You have lost a piece of your own humanity. I mean, that is an incredibly confrontational and powerful charge.
So what are the stakes of this silence? Well, according to Dylan, they could not be higher. This is way bigger than one boy's murder. He argues that when we stay silent in the face of this kind of evil, we are poisoning our collective humanity. We are allowing the human race itself to fall down so god-awfully low. Our silence isn't some personal choice, it's a public act with absolutely devastating consequences.
And that leads us right to the song's conclusion. See, Dylan doesn't just leave us swimming in guilt and accusation, he transforms his historical testimony into a timeless challenge, a call to action that resonates way beyond 1962. Dylan wants to make one thing crystal clear. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a reminder. It's a warning. He explicitly names the ghost-robed Ku Klux Klan to connect this one murder to the entire system of racist terror that, let's be honest, did not end with that trial. He's telling us the ghost of this hatred is still haunting the nation.
So the song doesn't end with some neat and tidy solution. It ends with a challenge. It offers this conditional hope, and it all hinges on that one powerful word, if. If we act. If we refuse to be silent. Dylan places the responsibility for what comes next squarely on our shoulders. He's told the story, he's named the crime, he's identified the poison of silence. And he just leaves you with this unspoken question hanging in the air. Now that you've been a witness, what are you going to do?